What is up, everybody? This is the Wild Nutrition Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Heskett, and this is episode 76. We got a Unapologetic Saturday. So just too much stuff happening this week with PWC that, well, I ran out of time. I couldn't record for the Friday episode. So here I am recording on Saturday. So we're going to do a quick little episode and then back to the normal schedule going into next week. Just one of those crazy weeks. It's sleep deprived all week. So those of you who are parents, you know, it's been a rough week. And when I could have been recording, I was napping. So I could actually do client check-ins at full capacity. So something I had to give, and that was the podcast. So we're getting the podcast out, but it's just a little bit late. Anyways, let's get into things. So today's episode is that fat loss is simple. You are over complicating it. So that's today's episode. Let's get into it. Fat loss is simple. I'm not saying it's easy, so don't get the title mixed up there. Fat loss is very, very simple. The way your body loses weight, simple. It doesn't matter your hormones. It doesn't matter your history. All it comes down to is getting into a calorie deficit. That is how you lose weight. Simple. It's also not very helpful to you, but that is the reality of fat loss. You do not need to overcomplicate it. What you need to do now is figure out the best way for you to get into a calorie deficit, or if that's even fucking realistic for you right now. So what do I mean by that? When it comes to creating a calorie deficit, if you've been yo-yo dieting, you've been a chronic dieter, you've been trying to lose weight for a long time, your metabolism has slowed down. So you are going to have to go even lower in calories, which comes with side effects of increased hunger, increased cravings, lowered energy, and all those other things that are not super fun and are going to work against your goal of trying to lose weight. So hormones also play a role. If you're a hypothyroid, if you've been a chronic dieter and you've downregulated a lot of your hormones, it's going to be they're going to be slower. Your metabolism is going to be slower. So what a calculator spits out for you is not necessarily going to be accurate. And I see this a lot of times in Facebook groups. I'm in a couple weight loss Facebook groups, big ones, and people will be like, I've been in a calorie deficit for 3 weeks. I haven't lost weight. You've either not been consistent or you haven't been in a calorie deficit. And they'll be like, the calculator said, and the calculators are a great starting point. So when I set up a client with a diet, it's literally named starting diet. So we need to see how you can be consistent, like how well you can be consistent eating this way. And we need to see if your body's actually going to respond to this. This is on paper where you should be. Does it actually work? Yes, no, maybe. We don't know until we try. And a lot of people also want the perfect diet right off the bat. Things are going to change. You're going to fail. You're going to mess up. You're going to have good weeks, bad weeks. You're going to find things that work, don't work. You have to realize that this is a journey and it's not just about the destination. Yes, we all want to get lean and look sexy. We want to feel better. We want to have more energy. Absolutely get it. But we have to realize that this isn't going to end. If your journey is fat loss, that means you are now starting your health journey. Like you're taking your health seriously now. And that's not going to end ever until, your last day on earth. Morbid, but that's reality. If you're starting your health journey or you have started and you're frustrated, you're in the middle of this fat loss, realize that this doesn't end ever. You're always going to be trying to improve your health or maintain your health as best as possible. If you want to be at full capacity, you want to be 100% you. It's going to last forever. So you don't have to speed through the process. We all want instant results, but a lot of times instant results don't happen. And especially if you're not working with a coach. Obviously, going to toot my own horn here and say work with a coach. That's going to be faster. But if you're doing it on your own, then you're going to find things that don't work. And it's a little frustrating, but you have to realize, hey, that didn't work for me. Let's try this. This doesn't work for me. Let's try this. Or this doesn't work for me right now. Let's try this. So, for example, I don't start most people with intermittent fasting. intermittent fasting might be a approach later on or for when they go into maintenance, but for a weight loss phase starting out, not the appropriate approach. It might be the appropriate approach later. So also don't like there's no black and white when it comes to health, nutrition, and fitness and stuff. There's no black and white. There's very few black and white things. Your body only loses weight when you're in calorie deficit. That's black and white. How you create that calorie deficit is a massive fucking gray zone. You can do intermittent fasting. You can do carnivore. You can go vegan. You can do calorie cycling. You can track your macros. You can do portion control. You can count points like Weight Watchers. You can try to just eat maintenance calories and then increase your exercise exponentially, though that usually backfires, just so you know. There's so when it comes to that, creating a calorie deficit and why exercise sucks for fat loss, there's something called I believe it's called the calorie constraint theory, and don't have it up because I did not put this on my notes to talk about today. So if I'm wrong, but the theory is right. It's just the name of the theory. So I believe it's called calorie constraint theory. So your body only wants to expend so many calories in a given day. And when you go and you work out and expend a ton of calories, your body's going to change subconsciously your energy levels throughout the rest of the day to decrease your activity level, or even the following days. For example, if you go and do a 2-day workout, are you going then to like do a bunch of yard work and stuff for the rest of the day? Probably not. Or if you go on a big long hike one day and you do like 12 miles, are you going to be up and about and doing a bunch of stuff the next day? Probably not. You're probably going to be sore, tired, and you're probably going to be like, I want to chill out. And it's your body kind of regulating and bringing you back to baseline. Now, exercise is fantastic for a lot of things: building muscle mass, improving your cardiovascular function, improving your balance, strength, coordination, increasing bone density, like so many things that it's really, really good for. It just sucks for fat loss. Now, there's a point to it because most people are so sedentary. You don't have to worry about that if you're going from like no workouts and like not hardly getting any steps into like a basic workout. That's great. But this is why like you can't out eat a bad diet, because your body will fight against you. And you do get a net calorie loss from it, from exercise. But as you increase exercise, so people will be like, I just need to increase more. I'm going to walk more. I'm going to do more. I'm going to do more cardio. What you see is, yes, the uptick, it keeps increasing. Like the calories burnt from exercise keeps increasing, but your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, like everything else, slows down. Like you're not going to move around in the house. You're not going to do chores. So you're going to more than likely sleep. You're going to go to bed early, which is great, except if you're going from like 8 hours of sleep to 9 hours. That's an hour of less activity, less calories burned. Or you're just like chilling out watching TV, or you're just more sedentary. You're doing activities you normally do, standing up, sitting down, things like that, where all of a sudden like you don't realize you're doing it and it's your body regulating. So that's why exercise is fucking terrible for fat loss when done on its own. When you do it, when combined with diet, it's fantastic because, like I said, you get a net loss. So it's minor, but it does work. And that's why like bodybuilders will keep increasing cardio, because they can kind of like, a bodybuilder is a different beast. Obviously, like bodybuilders aren't listening to my podcast, but they're a different beast. Like everything's so controlled that they know, like, I'm getting X amount of steps, I'm doing the blah, 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 blah. Everything's in line. And then they can increase exercise to increase their calorie deficit. Most people aren't willing to do that because it's so strict. Also, remember, with bodybuilding, that weight loss phase is temporary, and it's a very short period of time, maybe 12 to 16, 20 weeks at most. And that point where you're increasing exercise, that's towards the end. Like, we're kind of like out of food we can decrease, so we're increasing exercise. So realize when I am talking about this, or when you see other bodybuilders doing things, they're not doing it long term necessarily. But you as an average person might be like, oh, this is what this person does. I'm going to do it for the next 3 months, not realizing that person did it for 4 weeks. And then they stopped doing it. They reversed out of it. So keep that in mind. But getting back to fat loss is simple. You just need to create a calorie deficit, and you have to find the right strategy for you to do it. First thing to do is make sure that you can actually get into a calorie deficit that's sustainable for you. So if you've been yo-yo dieting and you can only lose weight at 1,200 calories, it's going to be really hard to live your life. So you better be ready to give up all your social events, going out to eat, things like that. And you're probably going to feel like shit. You're not going to have a lot of room for fun foods because you're going to have to still hit your protein goal and everything else. That's an issue. Long term, that's an issue. Your energy level is going to be dog shit. Your libido is going to be dog shit, which might put a strain on your relationship. You're going to be moody, which might put a strain on your relationship in the house and at work, so your work relationships. So there's a lot of things that can happen when you go very low calorie that you might not think about. You're just thinking get weight off, but you don't realize how that affects other areas of your life. So you have to figure out, can I actually lose weight at a sustainable amount of calories? If no, then your goal is to reverse diet because you should be able to eat your maintenance calories, which you can calculate. And that's plus or minus like 10%. So you should be able to eat right around your maintenance calories and not gain weight. If you can't, or you're not eating maintenance calories, then you need to reverse diet and get to a level where you can do that and not gain weight, which means reverse diet. That would be step number 1. That way you can actually go into a weight loss phase and lose weight. Otherwise, like right now, you're dealing with a compromised metabolism and your hormones aren't optimized, which means everything's going to be fighting against your weight loss. And everybody loves a good underdog story. You know what really sucks? Being the underdog. Like, don't do that to yourself, because we love an underdog story, but reality is being the underdog in real life absolutely sucks, and you probably put yourself in that position and failed multiple times already. So don't do that. Let's actually not. So this, when my dad was learning day trading, and I was learning how to do some swing trading and stuff with stocks. That was a big thing they would say. It was like, everyone wants to root for the underdog. When it comes to trading, you do not root for the underdog. That's how you lose all your money. Do not root for the underdog. You root for the person who's has everything stacked for them. You invest in that stock, you put the money there, and then you get out once you make your money and move on. So same thing with you. It might be one step back, but so you can go 2 steps forward instead of you doing this 1 step forward, 1 step back, 1 step forward, 1 step back. I lose a little bit of weight, then I get burnt out and I feel like shit. And I fall off the wagon and I gain the weight back. And then I try again, I lose some weight, and then I fall off track because I'm not motivated and I gain the weight back. You see 1 step forward, 1 step back. Let's go 1 step back. Let's get to maintenance calories. And then go 2 steps forward. Great. Awesome. Lost some weight. But you know what? The holidays are coming up and I can't really focus. So we're going to take 1 step back. But now we're 1 step forward. So we're going to chill out over the holidays. And then we're going to do 2 more steps forward. And now we're 3 steps forward versus 1 step back, 1 step forward, 1 step back. So now you're progressing. Now you're more motivated. Now you know the process. You can do this. And so that stuff is important for you to realize. It's important to reverse diet. It's important to always have that plan coming out of a diet. A lot of people don't realize that. You kind of hit your goal and you're like, yay. And then you immediately end the diet and go back to normal eating, and that will ruin your results. When it comes to some of the other things, like the strategy to create sustainable fat loss, use what works well with your current schedule. A lot of people will be online or they'll talk to their Aunt Karen. By the way, before I get into that, make sure you're getting your nutrition information from actual experts and not your Aunt Betty at the Thanksgiving dinner table. A lot of people do that. My friend, my cousin, my aunt lost weight doing X, so that must work for me. No, that worked for them. That doesn't mean it's the right approach for you. Is your schedule the same? Is your lifestyle the same? Do you exercise the same amount? Do you have similar likes and dislikes? All these different things. So, for example, they lost weight doing this, but they are single and they don't care about their sex life. You do the same thing, but you do care about that, and your libido goes to shit. Is that going to be something that you want to deal with? during a dieting phase, because that's a real thing. As you're, if you go into a very strict calorie deficit, a very big deficit, your sex hormones go down, and that is in charge of like not only fat loss, libido, but also helping you with your fat loss and retain muscle. But for someone, it might not be a big deal if that goes down. That's something many bodybuilders deal with towards the end of like, yeah, it's zero interest. Well, that's just normal part of the process of getting super lean, but it doesn't need to be part of a process of just like losing weight to get to a healthy body fat level. So that might strain a relationship, might strain you. Your energy levels also go down as those things. But so you can't just look at this person lost weight doing this. That will work for me. It might not. And that's where you should get your information from someone who is an actual expert. I'm one, but you shouldn't just get information from me. There's many other great experts out there. You should look into them and get information from them as well to kind of figure out what the right strategy for you is going to be. There's the timer. We're going to wrap this up because it's Saturday and I have shit to do. So with that being said, the right strategy, it might be a lot of people, it's just eating 3 times per day. Most of our work schedules are built around this. Eating breakfast before you get to work, a lunch at work, and then dinner after you get off of work. Like that's how most people's schedules are. That's where you probably want to start. Start with that. If you're rushing and super stressed in the morning and you're not hungry, guess what? You're probably not hungry because your stress hormone's so high that you drink coffee on an empty stomach, and caffeine is a appetite suppressant. So maybe you should eat something there, feel better, and then you don't feel like brain foggy and wired but tired type thing by lunchtime. Then you eat a little like pigeon food for lunch, and then come snack time, it's like, oh my God, I can't resist the break room brownies, or I can't get away from the vending machine. Like, oh my, I'm so hungry. I don't eat that much, but then you're eating like super hyper palatable food and you're just overeating those. And volume wise, it doesn't look like a lot, but calorie wise, it's kind of like peanut butter. It's like, it's a shit ton. So the right strategy for you is going to be playing around and figuring things out. Look at your lifestyle, look at your schedule. What are the things you want to do? Do you go out every single week or bi-weekly with friends, family, etc.? Then maybe something like calorie cycling so you can keep that if that's a non-negotiable for you. Like figure out what your non-negotiables are. Going out to eat all the time, that's just something you do. Calorie cycling is the right approach. Yes, it's a little bit more complicated, but you can stick with it. It allows you to do those non-negotiables of going out with friends and family on the weekends, going out to eat at a restaurant because you get more calories on the weekend, and then you get to have lower calories during the week. So the lower calories, you're going to have less energy. You're going to be a little bit hungrier during the weekdays, but then you can enjoy the weekend more. And if that ends up, you're like, fuck, I hate this, you can change it. It's not like, oh my God, this sucks, I suck, I should just give up. Like, no, you just change the strategy. Okay, like that strategy didn't work, let me try something else. Maybe it's tracking macros, but tracking macros can be tedious and annoying. So after a while, you might just want to cut back and go to portion control. Just realize that portion control, we're leaving some results on the table because it's slower, it's less accurate. So we're less precise with everything. So some days you're not going to be in that 500 calorie deficit. You're going to be in a 300 or a 200. And other days you might be way over. So your energy level tanks and you're less motivated to work out. So maybe you don't push the workout as hard. So there's these different strategies and there's no right or wrong answer because they all have pros and cons. Tracking your macros might be the fastest way to do it, but it's also probably the most mentally draining way to do it. And if you're super stressed out, you have a lot going on, it's very easy to be like, fuck it, I'm not tracking today, which doesn't work. You have to do it 7 days a week for tracking macros to really work, unless you have a really good base knowledge of all the foods. And if you can't recite the calories, or at least the macros, calories don't matter that as much, but the macros in chicken, oats, rice, apple, orange, kiwi, blueberries. I'm just thinking of foods I eat all the time. Sirloin, 10 ground beef, turkey, eggs. If you can't recite those off the back of your hand right now, you don't have a good base knowledge of nutrition. Congratulations. Now you know an area you can start to improve on and track. So How do you get that base knowledge? You track your food, and then you learn that, hey, an egg is going to have 5 grams of fat per egg and then 6 grams of protein per egg. Okay, great. So I know that if I have a goal, at breakfast, I want to get 20 grams of fat and 30 grams of protein here because I like a little bit higher fat. I like to do eggs and stuff. Okay, I need to eat X amount of eggs and maybe need to throw in X amount of egg whites to hit that goal. But you do it through tracking, or you can Google it, but you're probably not going to remember it long term. So again, all we have to do is create that calorie deficit. That's all you have to do to lose weight. But doing that, finding the strategy that works for you, is going to be less than simple. It's not going to be easy. Sticking with it's not going to be easy. The process is simple. Application, not so simple. There's some work. And even if there's like lose weight effortlessly, like they always come with a caveat of what is the caveat there. So that's Octavia's shtick of like, you can lose weight and not exercise. And yeah, you're eating 800 calories. So guess what? You're going to have no sex life because your libido is going to be in the tank. Your sex hormones, thyroid's going to be really, really far down. You're going to have no energy. You're just going to want to go to bed at night. That might put a strain on your relationship. You're going to increase your risk for injury because you're eating so low calorie and fairly low protein that you're going to lose muscle mass. And yeah, that increases your risk for injury. And especially if you're not working out, like you're not being able to maintain the strength and integrity of your joints, your muscle mass, and your bones, that's an issue. A lot of people get poor skin health. They get hair loss with it. They get brittle nails with it because you're not supplying your body with nutrition. You're basically malnourished during that diet. So there's a caveat there. Is it a simple process? Yeah. Spend $450 a month, get these crappy meals. You still have to make a meal per day and you lose weight. You don't have to exercise, but it comes with a caveat of it could just absolutely ruin your life. And that's what we see when we bring clients on who've done it and we change things and they're like, oh my God, I feel so much better. Like, yeah, like that is the cost of like, just do this. It's super simple. There's a cost involved. And then, some people, they're willing to pay that. It's not something most people are willing to pay though. Long term, because on the back end, it's not like you come off it and immediately that stuff is fixed. You're talking, when it comes to hormones on an extreme diet like that and extreme weight loss, you're talking 6 to 12 months of repair on the back end. Is that something you want to deal with? You want to lose weight in, 2023? Let's say it takes you 6 months to lose weight. We're in August now, so we're talking like February 2024. Do you want to spend into 2025 fixing your hormones? Because you feel like shit during the process, by the way. Like when your hormones are off, like you don't feel like you as a person, you feel like garbage. So is that something you want to do? That is a question you have to ask yourself. I can't answer it for you. I can tell you that is something I absolutely do not want to do, nor do I want my wife to do, because that would put a major strain on our relationship. We already have kids, 2 young kids under 2. That's that's already stressful enough. Trying to navigate like running a business, having my wife go back to work next week. She works full time. She has a very stressful job. Like all these things, you want to add another stress to your relationship. Like, yeah, that sounds like an awful idea. That is not what we want for each other. So you have to ask that question for yourself. I can't answer it for you. Usually the answer is like, yeah, that sounds like a terrible idea. And it's like, yeah, I would agree with that. But that's going to be it today, guys. So when it comes to fat loss, don't overcomplicate it. Just figure out the right strategy for you. And that might be taking a step back. It might be going to a reverse diet first and then going into a fat loss phase, or it might just be figuring out what the right strategy is for you. So with that being said, happy fucking Saturday. Enjoy your weekends, guys. And as always, there's a bunch of shit down below. So if you need help with anything I talked about today, I just did a podcast guest yesterday. So I'm like, the 5-day faster fat loss course is down below, where I walk you through how to set up your diet, create an exercise program, and a bunch of other stuff. Honestly, I'm forgetting what days 3 and 3 is. One's mindset. Maybe 3 is mindset. I forget what day 4 is, but it's how to set up your diet, how to set up your workout routine, how to set up mindset stuff. I forget what day 4 is. And then day 5 goes over some final things of like client stories and how they have had success in similar shoes as you. There's also the 12-week Rucking guide down there for the hunters listening. And as always, the Facebook group and my social media handles down below. Also, there is going to be the application for one-on-one coaching. We have 1 spot left for August. So if you're interested in getting one-on-one coaching with PwC and coming onto my roster, that is down below in the show notes. Just fill that out and we'll have a quick conversation. Anyways, happy fucking weekend. Enjoy the weekend, guys, and looking forward to seeing you guys on Monday with the podcast guest.